morning, family. It's Tasha, Mama Bear Prepping. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. You already know what time it is. Get your drink, pull up. Let's talk about it. So today what I want to talk about is rationing. I'm getting a couple questions about, is it time to start rationing? Should we, with everything that's going on right now, when is the time that we should start rationing our food at home, right? I'm not talking about ration cards per se. I'm not talking about some kind of limitations. I'm talking about you at home making a decision to start implementing some sort of rationing, cutting back on things because there's a lot going on. Now, some people right off the top will be like, well, why? Why would you ration? Well, why would be because there's hyperinflation happening, right? Stuff is very, very expensive. Also shortages, right? If any kind of panic buying or we hit a wall with the food situation, panic and chaos is going to start, and rationing what you have left at your home is going to be important. So it doesn't matter if you have 2 weeks of food at your home or if you have more, you're going to be needing to start rationing. If the stores run out of food, for example, and let's just say you're comfortable. You're like, I have 4 months worth of food. I'm very comfortable. In your eyes, you're comfortable, and you don't ration. The problem with that is you do not know how long a situation is going to last and where that situation grows to, right? You don't know what else can stem from the problem of not having food on the shelves, whether that's crime and chaos outside. Is that a broken government? Does that lead to, what does that lead to? Okay. And so no matter how much food you have, you need to start with the rationing so that you can make whatever you have last. 4 months, you might be like, okay, we're not going to ration, we're just going to eat. We have 4 months. But then 4 months later, you have no food and the crisis is not resolved, right? And now you're falling into whatever we have set up and going on outside with entities and governments as far as getting the populace food, if that's even a thing, okay? And so, and you need that time because you might need that time to set up a garden and to start growing food yourself and procuring food in a different way, right? So I'm going to talk about what's, first of all, the answer to that. And should you start rationing now with what is going on right now today? And I would say there's a soft core and there's a hard core, right? There's a soft line and a hard line. And the soft line is yes, okay? But there's a lot of variables with that, okay? And I'm going to walk you through those tips. And then the hard line is, be 100% be prepared to do it. You're not needed to do it hardcore now, but I'm going to walk you through some tips and some things that you can do. Because the number one thing, like anything else we talk about on this channel, is prepare. How do you prepare for these things that may happen? I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I'm saying we are in a situation where you should be thinking about your stockpile. What do you have? How long would it last? And essentially that's whatever you have in your house is, possibly how close are you to starvation? Because if things go left and all of a sudden you only have what's in your house. And so rationing will be important. And if you haven't planned to ration, it's not as easy as it seems. It's just cut back on food. Okay. So let's walk through some tips for planning and preparing for rationing. Okay. And some of the stuff you can start doing now, right? To get ready. So one is continue to stack food and water. Obvious, right? Is to stockpile. The more you have, then that's a bigger amount of food to ration from, which then means, essentially however long you've prepped for, you can double that, okay? Maybe even triple it depending on your game plan, okay? Next thing is write down your ration plan, right? Write out what you're willing or your ideas, right? I'm going to give you some examples, but you're going to write down the ones that you think that you guys could handle, could do, right, easily, because some stuff that people can't do on this list that I'm going to give you when we get into examples, because it's just too much. They're not going to be able to do it, right? So figure out what you and your family could do as far as rationing, and then you just write out a plan on, hey, if we had to start doing this, this is what it's going to look like. And then the next thing is discussing that with your family, right? Make sure that everybody in your family kind of knows what rationing is, What's your guys' game plan? What is the plan when you guys start doing this? So nobody's surprised, right? Nobody's like, why aren't we doing this? Or why are we eating less? Or, everybody's complaining. No, they know exactly why we're doing it, because we need the food to last and the importance of it. Okay, so you don't have any kind of rebels and rogue people in your house, right? Doing things behind your back. Okay, so explaining what's going on and explaining why we would do something is important. Okay, and I get it with children, it's a little bit more difficult to explain some things. But again, there's a lot of topics we do not fall away from in this house, and this is not one of them. We talk about this. Okay, we talk about this. We as a society are wasteful. We are wasteful with our, extra food. We are wasteful in the sense that we are not wasteful, but we are we overeat so much. Okay, we eat way more than we need to eat, and when you're used to that, and then you all of a sudden rip that away, that causes issues. And so you have to kind of explain. And there's things in life that happen, like leftovers, where you can totally naturally talk about these things with your kids, about why this is wasteful and why we should make less and eat less and all that good stuff. Okay. Okay. So some more tips. We'll go into some examples. Some examples would be, I have here for my ideas is maybe you eat meat only 4 days a week, right? So basically 3 days of the week, you pick whatever, but you're not adding any meat to your meal. So you're making a big stew that just doesn't happen to have meat in it, or you're making, rice and other things, and you have taken a primary meat source out of there. Okay. So just take a look at your menus, your menu planning, and when you're thinking about rationing, and you can start doing this now where, maybe you don't go as extreme. Maybe you guys eat meat a lot, but maybe just one day you don't eat meat and you just see what that looks like. Okay. Maybe you do two, right? And you might be surprised at the energy or what happens to your guys' bodies and stuff when you start taking something out like that. So just a way to cut back, especially something as valuable as meat, right, is just cutting back how many times a week you guys are eating it. Another thing is just smaller meals, right? Getting your portion controls situated, buying smaller plates, smaller bowls, right? And just practice. Make a stew this week and just serve it in smaller bowls, right? Or if you make something, serve it on a smaller plate. And when they ask, you just be like, we're just practicing. We're just seeing. Okay. You actually can fit a lot of food on a small plate. And I'm not saying get the small plates, you guys, and then heap it up, but do your portions, right? If it's a stew or something, 2 cups, two cooked cups of whatever it is. And that's it. And that's quite a bit. That's actually like a large ration portion, in my opinion. Okay. Because as we know, we can go much, much worse, but maybe it's a cup of rice with a cup of a hearty stew over it. That's quite a bit of food for a meal, you guys, to be honest, okay? So try doing that. Try doing 2 meals a day, right? We are accustomed to, a lot of people are accustomed to actually 3 meals a day. And people stick to that. And they have 3 very hearty meals, right? But oftentimes you can get away with 2 meals a day, okay? Especially if you're doing these hearty meals. You could probably benefit from cutting back that extra meal. Okay. So, 2 meals a day, right? That could be a plan or example of you guys doing that, or fasting days, or intermittent fasting in general, right? Hey, for the day, we're going to fast from this hour to this hour, meaning, okay. And then you're eating, but you're eating a smaller portion. Okay. So some sort of intermittent fasting, or fasting for days at a time. Now, again, not sure if a whole family could do this, but it's just examples. It's just ideas. Okay. And a lot of people do fasting already. So they're like, okay, I already do that, and so they're already kind of have some sort of regimen that kind of works with rationing already. And then a tip is run some of these examples. These things I just talked about, just try some of them and see how it works with your family for the day. Figure out meal plan, what you're going to do, and only do the 2 meals for the day, like on a Saturday or something, right? Just practice the stuff and see how it goes. Don't even tell your family, do a meal with no meat and let's just see, or do a soup or something like that. that they're used to you making, but just don't put meat in it, and just see how tasty and delicious you can get it. And if they even notice that it doesn't have meat in it, okay? Now, my next tip was implement intermittent fasting. We kind of already talked about that. Practice living with less, okay, in general, right? If things are going to run out, rationing is not just a thing for food. We talk about it with food so much because food you have to have or you're going to die, right? But water is the same thing. You're going to have to ration. You're going to be very, very careful how you're using your water if we're in any kind of grid down situation, chaotic situation. Fear of contamination of water, any kind of situation like that, okay? But also with items, right? Soaps and toothpaste, hygiene items, different preparedness items, batteries, things like that. You're going to be rationing and being careful how you use those things. You're not going to want to just use them haphazardly when you don't maybe necessarily need them, right? And so you're going to be rationing those other things as well, not just food. So practice living with less, practice, turning off the lights one night once it gets dark outside. I'm not even saying practice all day with no lights, but just at nighttime, it starts to get dark. Leave the windows open for as long as you can. Practice that, and then practice when it's so dark, you shut everything down, and then you light, see how many, less lanterns you can use in your house, right? Figure out now, okay, we don't need to light off lanterns in every single room because we're not even hanging out in different rooms, right? Figure out what you would do now, okay? Candles. A lot of people at storms or lights go out, they start lighting candles all over the house, but you're going to need to be thinking about rationing to make those things last. And so lighting off a ton of candles might not be is not of the right thing to do when you could get away with a couple candles lit, okay? So practice living with less and see how that goes. Again, it gets the family ready to go. Another thing is think about simple meals with less ingredients, right? You have all these fancy meals, and even meals that are like, hey, use these 10 spices, use all these other flavoring things, agents, right? Sauces, whatever, right? All this fancy stuff, right? And, 2 types of meat and all this. Cut it back and think of a menu plan that is very simple, not hard to think about. It has less ingredients. If you're using less ingredients, then that food lasts longer, okay? The more you're using in a meal, the faster your stockpile is going to get used up, okay? So if there's something there and you can make a delicious meal and you don't need all this extra ingredients, then don't do that. So don't complicate it by overcomplicating your meals, okay? I don't want to say dumb it down a little bit, but just lower and simplify the meals that you're making, okay? And then the last thing I have is filling snacks. Think about things that are filling, that will keep bellies full without having to make full meals, right? So real big for me, we prep a lot of, corn nuts and nuts and dried fruit and things that I know are filling, so that kids feel, you know how kids are, man. They want to eat all day. They would snack all day if you let them. And this is a way that you get something very hearty in their stomachs, to where, one, they're not feeling the twang in their stomachs from possibly eating less food, but they're also eating snacks that are purposely filling, okay, to fill those bellies in between possibly rationing. Hey, you go down to 2 meals a day. You're going to need to possibly fill those holes a little bit, okay? And so having hearty nuts and hearty snacks like that are filling will be beneficial in some sort of rationing situation, right? A good hearty packet of nuts or trail mix will take you far for the day. It really is filling, and before you know it, a lot of the day is taken up, okay? Not to mention that they're good for you, okay? So filling with hearty snacks that are filling, okay? So I'm not saying snacks like get the little bags of potato chips and crackers and just have those to fill, to give them something to eat in between these meals or longer periods of time. No, I'm talking about be very strategic with giving them very filling type snacks to help assist in any kind of rationing situation. You know, if you were just eating rice every single day, like Survivor, right? You got your little cup or bowl of rice, not even a bowl, but a little cup of rice for every meal. You know, imagine having, you know, a packet of nuts in between those 3 meals where you're only getting a cup of rice. That's going to be filling. Rice and nuts like that is going to be filling. And then once in a while you're popping in other stuff. Obviously you're going to be eating more than a cup of rice, but you get the idea that there is stuff that you can eat that you're able to live on, and then you can switch things up, and you can lower the level and the amount of food that you're eating, and then strategically have other things in place that keep, you know, your body feeling full that whole entire 24-hour period. Okay, so these are just my thoughts and ideas on rationing. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and ideas on rationing. You know, are you rationing now? Have you started rationing? Have you started doing some of these examples? Is there other examples that you want to share with the group that I didn't discuss, and you're like, hey, we actually tried doing this or this? Please share that with the group. We all learn from each other, so that we can get ready for the day that we actually have to take this up a notch, right? If you practice this stuff and you talk about this stuff now with your family, then it's not going to be so drastic later at all. It would just be kind of okay, we're starting to do this, and it's not so scary, okay? So I will talk to you guys tomorrow in the next video. Blessings from my bear cave to yours. Bye.